Uh, I would like to give you an introduction about MINDSEER. As you would have known that MINDSEER is a platform that is working in the field of mental health and well-being. So this platform basically empowers people in combating mental health issues using yoga as a powering agent. And a lot of people are already benefiting from different practices that we are posting online on our website and by conducting group sessions that involves teaching and learning of well-known and prevalent yogic practices. So this was a brief introduction about MindSeer. And today is World Mental Health Day. So we thought that it would be great that we discuss today about mental health and bring awareness to people where a lot of us are, ignorant or we do not have any first-hand experience of knowing about what these issues are basically. And a lot of us keep suffering without knowing what the solution could be. So with me is Sandeep Nigamji. He is our lead yoga teacher
Namaskar.
at MindSeer, and he has a lot of extensive corporate background experience working in the field of IT, and he is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur as well as IIT Bombay. So, Sandeep Nigamji has been working in the field of yoga for last few years, and he has quite a bit of in-depth experience about mental health issues, and that is why he is like one very good yoga teacher that we have on board with us. Now, I will give you a little bit of background about myself. I am Ashwani Asthana, and I am an alumnus of IIT Bombay and founder of a healthy food startup called Friscano. And both of me and Sandeep sir, we are, running this mental health initiative as MindSphere. So, sir, I would just start this session with, a brief background. First, I think we should understand, and our audience should understand what this mental health issue is, why it is that we are hearing this quite often these days, how big the issues is. So I will just take you through. It is quite surprising that a lot of us, including me, few years back, I didn't know that mental health issue is like a slow pandemic that has been engulfing the whole world for quite a long time. And around 800 million people, this is the data of 2017, more than 800 million people, that's close to a billion people, suffer from various mental health disorders. And if you see what this mental health disorder actually cause to us is it reduces lifespan by nearly 10 to 20 years. So those who are suffering from one of these issues or several of these issues, on an average, they live 10 to 20 years less had they not been suffering from these issues. Now, quite significantly, we have heard that a lot of suicides that are happening in we have heard about in different colleges and also a lot of working professionals. As this coronavirus pandemic came in, we also heard about very leading doctors who are committing suicide because of mental health issues, and the number is staggering huge. It is around 800,000 people every year suicide because of this mental health issue, which is like close to 1 in 40 second suicide that is happening because of this. And if you see that, it is widely that our young population between 15 to 29 years, for them, this is the leading cause of death. Suicide is the leading cause of death in this age group. And I think this is a worrisome figure that all of us should work towards eliminating. Another important data is because of this mental health issues that working professionals are facing, around $1 trillion is lost every year in productivity. So if you go by some of the widespread figures, there's a big study that talks about mental health issues, and this is like conducted in 2017. So anxiety disorder is the most prevalent form of mental health issue, and that is followed by depression. Collectively, it constitutes around close to 7% plus of the world population that is suffering from these mental health issues. And we see in line there are other issues like bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. So this was this, some figures about the world. What is this about India? So you see that more than 7.5% of Indian population are suffering from mental health problems, and this is actually quite a conservative figure, to say the least. The real figure could be very high. This is because a lot of us are just not aware about these issues, and we are dealing with these problems every day. A lot of people also do not, go to the doctors to see because of this stigma that is associated with mental health issues. It is like a big stigma, and the person only suffers in silence. That is what is happening in India today. Looking at the data, depression constitutes around 3.53% of our population, and that followed by anxiety disorders. That is around 3.3% of our population suffers from anxiety disorders. Then bipolar disorder and schizophrenia and things like that. So this was, we thought to include this data in our presentation today because, on the World Mental Health Day, we want people to be aware that this is a problem that is there in our society, in our, close, near, and dear ones, and we should know what are the possible solutions for addressing these issues. So before we move ahead, sir, I would like to get your opinion on what do you think are the reasons behind this rising mental health issues, and people are suffering because of this. So it will be great if I can know about your views on this.
Yeah, thank you, Ashwani, for a nice introduction and for introducing MINDSEER and introducing me. So, as he just narrated, we are trying to address the issue of the mental well-being through yoga, and we will just try to explain what exactly we mean by that and how yoga really helps in what forms and in what ways, and what is the range of impact which yoga has on the mental well-being. Before that, as we just pointed out, what is mental health issues? Let me just start with our own journey of our life and see what could be the possible reasons of anxiety disorders, of stress, which has become so common. So, I mean, as we all have known and seen from our own experience of our daily life, whenever you speak to a friend, a relative, even to your child, your children, you have these conversations around on your dining table, lunch table. The stress, the talk of stress, anxiety, and depression, they are becoming like a normal casual conversation. I mean, in each conversation that you have, even if you were to meet a long lost friend after some time, conversation inadvertently and naturally it turns into about how much stress we have, how much anxiety we have, and how much depression we have. Of course, notwithstanding the current pandemic, of course, that has taken all this to a different dimension. But even otherwise, I mean, it has become so endemic. And not just that, you would have even heard from your peers, from your seniors, and even your parents, sometimes your friends, the stress is stress is here to stay. Stress is natural. Stress is a part of your life. But that, to my mind, is is a defeatist viewpoint. Not just defeatist. It's like accepting that misery should be a part of life. I mean, why should stress and anxiety be a part of your life? It doesn't help you in any way. We talk
Right.
about positive stress. Positive stress is something different. Positive, even I wouldn't call that stress. That's more of a motivating factor, which propels you to do better. But stress per se, anxiety per se, when we talk about the stress and anxiety, which is creating negative emotions, why should that be natural? You weren't really born to bear all this misery in the life, right? So let us just try to understand with the journey of our life as to how we pick up this stress and how stress this really becomes a part of our life. So if you were to look at your own childhood, you will look at small children, the growing up children, just 1 or 2 years maybe, that child would have some anxiety or stress when he is not, or he or her is not giving that toy of her choice, or when her parents are not giving him or her the due attention. The child will cry, will be anxious, will be under stress. Now, when the child starts growing up, starts going to the school, the child has friends, then there's a anxiety about the relationship with your friends, with your teacher, with your classwork, with your homework, right? And as that child grows further, right, the child learns to be angry, to be irritated, to be unhappy, to be frustrated, to be
Right.
constantly unhappy about the desires that are not being fulfilled. Okay. And further up, when the child grows up, matures, goes into the college, class 11th or to 12th, then there is a anxiety and stress about the future, about the board examinations, about competitive examinations, about peer pressure, about the anxiety about what would the future be like. Then disputes with parents, right? Your parents will ask you to do something to try to guide you, and you will rebel against your parents. So, but if that's right or wrong, that's a different issue. What I'm saying is, all along as a child, as you're growing up, right? This is constantly on your mind, in your emotions, the stress, the unhappiness, the irritation. And of course, I'm not saying that you're not happy, you're happy, but you're happy only in streaks. A lot of this time goes in negative emotions. Then out of the college, but let's say, for example, you went to a good engineering college, or you did a very nice professional course, and you got your dream job. I remember my own example. When I was 37 years ago, when I got into IIT Kanpur, I distinctly remember that afternoon, that summer afternoon. It was very hot, and I was very anxious. I was not very sure whether I would be able to get into IIT. So to just do away with my anxiety, I went to the market to have a glass of lassi, a cool lassi. And when I was returning, I saw my brother racing towards me on his bicycle. So I thought perhaps I made it to IIT. And when he actually broke the news to me, that I still remember vividly, that moment was one of nirvana. That I've got what I had wanted. All my cares, all my worries, all my tensions would be taken care of, and I'll be able to live blissfully ever after. And that was 37 years ago. I was 17 years ago. And I know I'm still struggling. I'm still struggling. I've become wiser in the last few years since coming to yoga. But the point that I'm trying to make is that even after you get out of the college and get your dream job, that happiness will stay for a few months. I remember when I was in Adobe, and we used to hire freshers and graduates and people from other companies for For many of them, Adobe was a dream job. It used to pay very well. It was one of the topmost MNCs in software. But within 6 months, all that happiness turned to a knot, because once one desire gets fulfilled, and that's the whole problem of these desires. One desire sows the seed of many more desires to come, and so keep on churning the wheels of the life. We keep on fretting, we keep on, and then we have more insecurities, a higher salary, a higher pay packet, right? Uh, Big houses, cars, relationships, wives, then you have children. So the whole issue is we just are just struggling, as it were. If you just see the life as it has really turned out, we just keep on struggling one after the other, unhappy, fretting, worrying, right? And there's no fulfillment. We hope that next step will give us fulfillment. There's no fulfillment. There is no peace. And what is the result? What is the result? The result is our debilitating psychosomatic diseases, which we pick up on our way. If you look at the doctors, now they've started studying about psychosomatic. Literally means psyche is mind, soma is body. So the diseases brought about by the mind, the stress in the mind, are called psychosomatic. And initially, the doctors thought that perhaps the psychosomatic diseases are limited only to blood pressure or maybe diabetes. But now we know, and we have evidences, as we studied, many of these diseases are psychosomatic. In fact, we shouldn't even call them psychosomatic. The diseases are psychic. They are caused by the mind. Not just blood pressure or the sugar, even the small little pains that you have, the pain in the cervical region, the pain in your knees. I can give you my own example. I used to have a debilitating pain for 3 years when I was working in my right knee. I was not able to climb this staircase. And I showed it to the doctor. He asked me to take out several x-rays, and I did my sugar test. Everything was perfectly normal. I had this hunch that it is perhaps caused by stress. And as my stress levels started decreasing and I kept on doing yoga, it just went away on its own. So I will not go into the details of how it happens, but if you really read yoga, you read Ayurveda, you'll see what I'm saying. When stress increases, it increases what is called Vat, the quantity of Vat imbalance in the body. That will lead to pains. Psychoneuro Immunology. This term was coined by a person called John Adler. I think he was a psychologist and a neurologist and a psychiatrist in 1974. Right? And that actually gives you an indication. Psychoneuro Immunology. What that means is that the impact of our psychic stress on our immune system. Something which people are now coming to terms with. Our yogis knew this thousands of years ago. They call Adi and Vyadi. Adi is stress, Vyadi is the physical disease, right? So we will probably cover these in our section.
This is quite a hot topic in the latest research that is happening in medicine and about the health. I have read a lot of journals around this. So what you're saying is quite correct.
Yes, true. And of course, we will cover this in more detail in the subsequent sessions. But what I'm saying is that all this stress which keep on fighting our lives, despite getting all that we had thought for, right? Even then we are so unhappy and we pick up all these diseases. So one is these physical diseases, and the other is as Ashwani talked about, is the depression. And the depression which he was mentioning, depression is not about being unhappy or being sad. We all have those small bouts of sadness. What he was talking about is clinical depression. That again is a separate topic which requires an hour of a discussion. It causes clinical disorder, a chemical disorder, a disorder in the neurotransmitters in the brain, and that is absolutely debilitating. the person who gets afflicted with that, uh, it's not just about being unhappy, but that person finds life very, very difficult. And all these suicides which actually are happening are because of the clinical depression, right?
So I just sorry to interrupt you, sir. I just want to mention here that we will be conducting different sessions around this, and that will help you in you know having better awareness about what exactly these things mean, how to identify through symptoms, whether be it your any family member or a child or
Yes.
people who
Yes.
you are working with, your friends. uh, these will help you in identifying and in trying to help them in early stage as possible, because these problems, as gradually it is left untreated, this can create havoc in your life. Okay, so this will be a part of subsequent sessions, and just I wanted to mention that.
Very
So
true,
please
very
continue.
true. Yeah, yeah, very true. So what we was trying to, when I was going through a journey of life, what I was trying to allude to is that this unhappiness and negative emotions, there's a very wide range. One is the small little unhappiness of a child as he's growing up. That is one spectrum. And the other spectrum is psychic disorders, clinical depression. Right? Uh, so I'm just, before handing to Ashwani, I'm reminded of a very profound quote by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda is known for making very strong and profound and eloquent statements. And remember, this was 125 years ago when stress wasn't that much prevalent as we think of. He used to say, "We live our life like hunted animals. We live our life like hunted animals, moving from one misery to the other." And that's exactly, if you really look at the journey of your life, that's what we have been doing, right? So, Ashwani, maybe you can just. So, what do you think could be the reason for inability to be able to control, to regulate our emotions, which are leading to uh, some deep stress and anxiety disorders amongst the people?
Right. So I think this is not a million but a $1 billion question. And if you see that entire in the entire history of our yogic tradition, this has been the central theme to it. And whether it's yoga or whether you look at Bhagavad Gita, all of these texts are trying to talk about this central theme, and that is how to have stable emotions. So managing emotions is like one of the skills that a lot of people still do not know. So just I'll just categorize or give a structured format to your question. Personally, I feel that there are around 5 to 6 reasons that people are not able to handle the emotions and the stress that these uncontrolled emotions cause. And one of the leading reason is that we are living in a dominant default mode, what is normally also understood as an automatic mode, or our conditioning or the reactive mode in which we are living our lives, which is primarily controlled by the limbic system, or the emotional center of our brain, that's called amygdala. So this is one factor which actually is defining how we react to certain situations or scenarios, or when, like you pointed out, different if we have a certain kind of expectation and that has not been met, so how we are going to respond to it. That's the reactive mode, and this is the default mode. Now there is another reason. The second point is lower level of awareness amongst us. Now this level of awareness, it works at different levels. Primarily here we are talking about awareness of our thoughts and emotions. So that is one of the leading causes that we are not able to handle our emotional issues. That we ourselves are so clinged or so associated or attached to that particular emotion, that the difference between us, what we are really, and the emotion, that is not there. So this lower level of awareness at the thought and emotion level is also one of the causes that we are not able to handle our emotions. Now, this lower awareness levels also works at in a different format, that these issues of emotions, when we see that something has not been done, or what we are expecting has not been happening, so the constant or the regular reaction is that we get angry about it. We slowly start feeling unhappy and sad about it. Now, these emotional issues are actually settling down in our mind and body slowly and slowly, layer by layer. It is just like a mountain rose out of the sea. That layers of sand got settled one after the other, and after a long time, a mountain came out of the sea. So similarly, all these emotional issues and stress, these are settling in our mind and body slowly, slowly, and we do not know that after how many months or years this will surface, and this will surface into a serious mental health issue or a physical issue in the form of the psychosomatic diseases that you mentioned. So this is the second reason that I see that people not able to handle the emotions. Now, one very important reason is that a lack of training and skills. Now we see that since our childhood, the entire education system and the parenting, we have been, at least from my generation, I can talk that we have been seeing that the parents and teachers, they want the students to and the children to perform well in the education, get marks, get into the competitive exams, and this is the entire spectrum of education that is more focused on material gains, on success in the material world. But and that is nothing wrong about it, that is perfectly correct. But all the training that has been imparted and the skills that has been imparted only is helpful in achieving this. Another level of skill and training is required for managing our internal self. So internal self, we are talking about here emotions, and that is the root cause of a lot of problems. So that level of skill and training has not been imparted. So one simple example, if you see, all of us can relate to it. That we were when we were kids or when we were growing up, we were let's suppose the child gets angry, and we were told that do not get angry, do not get angry. But nobody told or nobody taught us how not to be angry, or how not to be upset. So what has to be done? The do's were told as commandments, but the process or how was never emphasized upon. So that is one of the reasons that people are, as adults, we are still not able to manage our emotion. Now, there is a subset of this, and that is another reason that I understand is the lack of inner experience when we were growing up in young adulthood. And with the inner experience that I'm talking about is a different level of happiness and joy that comes when we practice yoga and when we are quite young. Now, important thing is when we are quite young, uh, we are still not conditions, or we have still not become concrete to a level. A person when he is around 30 years or 40 years of age, when the entire psyche sets in, the entire thought process and attitude and everything gets built up. So in the young age, the person is still connected to the that kind of inner happiness and joy. And when these practices have not been introduced in the young age, so this experience of inner peace and calm, that person has not got in the memory. So if we see that whenever we feel sad, or whenever we look back in our memories, in our histories, we recall those moments which are the happy moment or the joy moment, like the moment of falling in love, or the moment of having a child, or playing with a child, things like that, and we recall those moments. So these are also like boosting factors or triggering factor that tell us that this is a good experience. This activity has got brought in a better experience, and that is what motivates us to perform it more, and further we can get rid of the issues that these emotions cause. Now, there is another reason which I see is even if we provide skills and training and all the other points that I mentioned, there's lack of will to practice, because whatever we are today, we are a result of the constant practice that we have undergone at the level of our mind, at the level of our daily lifestyle, or reacting to different situations. That is our entire neural circuitry has got built up. So that is the kind of conditioning. Now, if we do not have the will to practice and work towards inner transformation, we will never get into the position of being able to manage emotions. So this was the fifth point that I think is one of the causes that we are not able to handle our emotional issues. Another issue that I think is like you had touched upon this in when you're saying that stress is the normal, stress is the new normal that we perceive. Okay, so we a lot of us have not seen in our own lives, or we lack a live example, a role model in our life, in our family, in our friend circle, in the people we interact with, who are living by example, by their constant practice, that they are internally happy on their own, and they are able to manage their emotions, and the emotional intelligence level is quite high. When they have to deal with different situations, they deal it in a particular way without getting too much upset about it, or without getting into too much worry about it. So this entire issue of psychosomatic disorders that shows up after a long practice of not being able to handle emotional turmoils, these people can somehow avoid it, or these people can manage it even if it happens. So having a living role model or a life example, the lack of it is also one of the reasons that we don't get inspired to work towards achieving this kind of issues, managing these emotional issues. So this was, I think, what I understand, what I see is one of the causes. Now we also know that there are a lot of research that is happening these days about what are the solutions for managing mental health issues. Now, since we are born in India, we are brought up in India, we have been in touch with all this ancient knowledge. The yoga is the original, mind sciences, as we understand, and as has been very well explained in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras itself. So this one solution the world should know, and I think at this particular day, as we are starting this talk series, I would like to know your opinion, Sandeep ji, as how do you think that mental well-being and the issues that we are talking about that relates to mental health, we can tackle through yoga.
Yeah, so thank you, Ashwani. I think you explained this whole issue in a very lucid manner, and then brought it to yoga as to how yoga can actually help in such matters. So, if I were to really look at the crux of what you were trying to elucidate and point out, is that the reason why we are not able to handle the emotions is because handling emotions is unfortunately left to chance. So let me just repeat again. As Ashwini pointed out very correctly, that all the education that we have had since childhood, whether we go into IIT, whether we do commerce, whether we take up sports or whatever career, all of this education is just career oriented. How to earn a living and how to make money. Right? As you was also saying, there's nothing wrong with it. But the most important thing is that is left to chance. So that is the external world. But the internal world, and why is it so important? Because even what happens in the external world, the experiences happening in the internal world, what you call the mind, the thoughts, the emotions, the intellect, the ego, the memories. So this is something which we never actually even look at. And this is where, as Ashmi said, that our culture is so rich because our rishis of yore, Patanjali, Adi Shankaracharya, Lord Krishna, you name it, we have hundreds and thousands of them. They were real scientists. Spirituality, if I were to label it in a few words or one expression, I would say it's a science of the mind. This existed much before psychology and the other things came into mind, and even then they were much more sophisticated. We will, as we go along in subsequent sessions, we will be talking about Patanjali Yoga Sutra, which uh, Ashwani just referred to. It's a treatise on a wonderful psychology, philosophy, practice, which are called 3 Ps of yoga: practice, psychology, and philosophy. All of these put together in one manuscript and presented to the mankind, right? So the profound scripture. So coming back to yoga. Now, uh, the topic itself for the evening is yoga for mind. Now, we have all heard about it. We have all heard about it. Yoga is something that helps the mind. But when we talk of yoga, for instance, first of all, let me just try to clear in very brief. This again can be a separate topic. What yoga is? When we say yoga, people say yoga and meditation. We say yoga and pranayam. That is absolutely incorrect. Yoga itself contains, or is a super, not even superset. Yoga contains asanas, pranayam, meditation, and even much more. We have this cleansing techniques. We have mudra. We have bandh, right? So yoga and pranayam, yoga and meditation, they are wrong expressions. All of these put together constitute yoga.
Right.
Now, the first question. Now, the first question which all of you would be would be asking or would come to your mind. Now, if I am saying yoga, then why should I do asanas for the mind? Why just meditation? Because everyone says meditation, close your eyes, you meditate, because it is for the mind. So I might as well just put my mind to use, meditate, and relax my mind. It should be as simple as that. Why do we even talk about asanas? Why do we even talk about pranayama and any other techniques? Therein lies the crux, right? So those of you who have actually tried to meditate, you would remember, and this is the first question which we ask, both Ashwani and I. We keep on discussing this at length. And this must be, I'm sure this would have been your experience as well. The moment you close your eyes, right? If you had about 1,000 thoughts, that the quantity of your thoughts or the speed of the thoughts will become 10,000 per hour. All the thoughts of your future, everything that's going on, you will, all the thoughts which were hidden in some corner for several years, they will suddenly start cropping up. You will start planning till eternity. All the planning will start happening in those moments. So much so that you would suddenly think it's better to just open the eyes. You get so scared. And I've seen this literally happening. People are not able to close their eyes. So just closing the eyes and contemplating is not meditation. Certainly, it's not a good quality of meditation. I'm not saying you shouldn't try it, but in order to really be able to meditate, you need to practice. You need to be able to bring your mind to a certain level, wherein the mind becomes, or it's like when you are when you want to do a degree course, you also need to go to the kindergarten, to school, and then you will be able to have that qualification to do a degree course. So meditation also, you have to have certain qualification to become adept at it. I'm not saying you can't start trying it. And this is the reason. Now, where do the asanas fit in? You would have seen, and this is where I call Yogi was the great scientist. You would have noticed, but very, very interesting correlation. When your mind is stressed out, when your mind is restless, your breath becomes heavy, right? And your body also becomes restless. You become fidgety. You start seeing cramps. Your hands will be trembling. Your legs are shaking, right? You'll be looking here. You'll be looking there. You'll be scratching your head. You'll be scratching your knees, your hands. So when the mind is restless, body is restless, right? Also, when the body is restless, the breath is restless, the mind is restless. So the yogis thought, since it is maybe more difficult to catch hold of the mind directly, I'm saying catch hold. You can't catch the mind, but I'm just using that phrase as a metaphor. Why not use this workaround? That what I just talked about it. When you make your body stable, the breath becomes stable. Just now, wherever you're sitting, let's do a small experiment. Just become absolutely still. Make your body absolutely still for a moment. Stop doing whatever you're doing. Become absolutely stable. No, we used to play statue as children when we were growing up. Make yourself turn into a statue. Right? Just for a few moments. And then release it. Right? So you would have noticed at that interlude, at that point in time, the mind also becomes calm for that interlude. This is what the yogis did. They devised all these asanas, and how the asanas came into existence, that also is an interesting story which we'll again talk about. To use the asanas first, of course, the asanas also help the body in keeping it disease free, in keeping it youthful, in keeping it energetic. Now, those are the byproducts. Those are the very positive byproducts. But the intent of yogi was not to really heal the body, but to use the body as a tool to the mind. And you would also see that when your body is diseased, your mind is also under stress. So it's also important to heal the body to that extent so that you can do those asanas. So through body, when the body becomes still, your breath becomes still, and your mind also starts becoming still. So you're training your mind, right? And after you've done asanas, after you've done pranayam, we'll talk about it later on again. I'm sure we are getting short of time. You become adept at doing meditation also, right? That is one part. So one is the asanas, yoga, to calm down your mind. Second is to live your life mindfully. When I say mindfully, the mindfulness term is being used a lot in the West, but it has got its origins in another of our great spiritual practice, the Buddhism. Mindfulness literally means to be aware of what you are doing. That again, it'll take quite some time to really explain what I mean by that. But let me just try to explain in a very simple form. As Ashwani talked about and we talked about, the problem is with our thoughts, with our emotions, which Ashwani has rightly pointed out that we are not able to control the emotions. The emotions overwhelm us, right? The thoughts overwhelm us. And why does it happen? Because we live in the default mode, what he said. What do we mean by default mode? Now, suppose, for example, this is not just an example. It's not even a hypothesis. This is actually what we can do. Suppose you are able to witness those thoughts as an observer. My thoughts are coming, and you become adept at being able to observe those thoughts as they are arising. As a witness from a distance, you will be able to control and regulate them, right? This is a common sense. How do we do it? Again, that's a separate topic. But if you are able to develop to that level of awareness and mindfulness, that you are able to observe those thoughts as they are arising, the negative thoughts are arising, you're just observing them, and slowly as you start become adept at it, these thoughts also will come and go, and at one point in time, they will even stop arising, right? That is what I call mindfulness, living in mindfulness, right? So yogasanas, meditation, living the life, your whole life experience, not just that 1 hour of yogic sadhana, but living with that awareness, which is called mindfulness. This is the second part. The third very important part is the diet which we eat. You'll be surprised by that, but what has diet got to do with it? Those of you who have fasted, by fasting I mean real fasting, not feasting on Navratras when you eat fried Haldiram thalis or fried puris and and fried potatoes and all that.
Navratri is around the corner, sir.
Yeah, northeast corner. So that'll in fact cause more damage to your body. When I say fasting, really fasting. Fasting was meant for cleansing the body. You would have noticed on those days your mind is also calm, right? So when you take it's called sattvic food, right? You have sattvic mind. The mind is calm. The mind is bright. I just quote one very interesting study which was made in the U.S. In a restaurant. They found it very interesting, but if you ask your yogis, they'll tell you this is the ABC of yoga. What did the study? The study that they did was in a restaurant. Uh, they they did it with the music and the ambience of the restaurant. So whenever they played the jazz and Western classical, soft classical music, they noticed that the diners, they were more prone to order things like healthy food, like salads, like juices, right? And vegetarian stuff, boiled vegetarian stuff. But whenever they were playing heavy metal stuff, heavy music, rock stuff, they were more prone to ordering junk food, lot of non-vegetarian stuff, alcohol. And they found this very interesting. They published a paper. When I looked, someone forwarded that. I will just dig it out. I can forward it to many of you. When this and they, this was a major news item in I think CNN. But when I looked at it, I just laughed at it. But this is very natural. This sattvic ahar leads to sattvic mind, and Rajasic ahar leads to Rajasic mind. In Chandogya Upanishad, those of you who know about Upanishad, there's a very interesting shlok which says, ahar shuddho sattva shuddhi. Which means that if you take shuddh sattvic ahar, it leads to a calm, serene, and a tranquil mind. And when you have a tranquil mind, it also helps you in yoga sadhana. So that is why I say that yogic practices and yoga and diet are complementary. So yoga, living it, mindfulness, diet, these I will call three pillars for a tranquil mind and a healthy body. Right. So I'll stop there, and yeah, Ashwini, if you have anything to add.
I think, sir, you have explained a lot about the yoga and quite a bit of understanding on mindfulness, and I think a lot of us who are a little bit aware or have some interest, they know that yogic intervention and especially mindfulness intervention is one of the ways, or it's like one of the therapy that has been used or that is being widely used by psychologists in treating mental health issues. So we should know that a lot of this we already have over here, and a lot of people, who are quite trained in these aspects. We can utilize their skills and empower ourselves to deal with daily stress and struggles that we are going through. So one of the best ways of treating mental health issue is to prevent it. And prevention happens when we get empowered quite early in our lives with skills like this, so that this entire suffering that we go through in different phases of life as we move forward, that can be avoided, or we are in a better position to manage that and handle that. So with this, I think we are going to close this session, and I would just say that we have heard that a healthy mind resides in a healthy body. A healthy mind resides in a healthy body, that we have heard so far. But we should also know that an unhealthy mind creates an unhealthy body. An unhealthy mind creates an unhealthy body. So with this, we will close today's session, and going forward, we will be bringing more interesting discussions around mental health and well-being, so that all of you can utilize our skills and our knowledge and make your lives much better, and for those of your loved ones and your friends around you.
So would there be
And
any
thank you for
questions?
participating.
Would there be any Are any questions on that?
I think we do not have any questions. If any of you have any questions, you can just write in here and we can answer that.
Yeah. So just to close what Ashwani said under the mind and preventive measure insurance. So there's a very interesting sutra in Maharishi Patanjali's sutras which says Heyam Dukham Anagatam. So yoga helps you to prevent that sorrow which is yet to come. Right? So we have all these medical insurance, all those insurance policy. I think yoga is the best insurance policy that you can inculcate for yourself and for your loved ones all around you. That's the best insurance policy for your body and for your mind.
Absolutely, sir. That's a perfect statement. Yoga is insurance for your mind and body. I think nothing can be more clear and crisper than that. With this, I think we'll close this session because
Okay.
we are great.
Yeah, we already
So
have 1
a lot
hour.
of people have recommended, and we'll carry forward in this series more interesting topics around mental health and yoga. Thank you for participating, and wish you a good weekend. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sandeep ji.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ashwani. God bless us all.